My name is Justine Clark. I'm 30 years old and a single mother to a wonderful 7-year-old daughter named Olivia. And until 3 weeks ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was. Professionally fulfilled, respected, with almost a decade of tireless dedication to the same company. I built my career there, nights turning coffee into spreadsheets, weekends trading the beach for the office, holidays sticking post-its on cold glass walls. I believed I was doing everything right. That loyalty was a two-way street. It was an apparently normal Tuesday, gray skies over the city, traffic flowing as if the world was in perfect order. I arrived early, as always, balancing my coffee cup, my phone already buzzing with notifications, and a folder of notes about the project that, until then, was the most important thing in my life. A project I had nurtured like a second child, and that was finally about to come to fruition. "Justine, Marcus wants to speak with you in the boardroom," said Carol, the receptionist, with a strange smile. She avoided my eyes for a second. That was the first sign. My heart raced, but my mind rationalized. Maybe he wants to discuss the launch or improve tomorrow's presentation. But my body knew. My body always knew. The boardroom was on the top floor. Glass walls with a panoramic view of the city. That view that tried to convey transparency but hid more than it showed. The reception smelled of expensive wood and control. Marcus was waiting for me, standing next to the long table, wearing a blazer too neat for an informal conversation. He smiled, but it wasn't a sincere smile. It was the kind of smile that precedes a blow. "Please, sit down, Justine." I sat. Slowly. The leather chair creaked under my weight and my anxiety. He walked around the table like a shark studying its prey, before sitting down himself. "First of all," he began, opening his hands as if he was about to offer me the world, "I want to thank you for everything you've done for this company. You were, one of our most valuable assets." He paused. The word "were" burned more than anything else. "Marcus, what's going on?" My voice came out calm but firm. Inside, an earthquake was already starting to crack everything apart. He took a deep breath. And then he let the words fall like a weather report. "We think the company needs a breath of fresh air. New blood, you understand. A strategic team renewal. Difficult decisions need to be made, and this is one of them." I blinked. Just blinked. My hands were tingling. My brain refused to process it. "You're firing me? A week before the project I created launches?" He looked away. "It's not personal. And as for the project, well, the company will move forward with it. You know, legally, it belongs to the company." That was the final blow. I wanted to scream. I wanted to stand up and throw my notebook against the glass wall until it shattered, just like the image I had of myself there. But I didn't do any of that. I swallowed the tears like swallowing a glass of nails. I forced a smile with my mouth. Because women like me, in situations like this, learn to fall with grace, even when the ground disappears. "Thank you for the opportunity," was all I said. I stood up. My legs were shaking, but my steps were firm. Marcus tried to stand too, maybe to offer me his hand, but I had already turned my back. I left the building like someone escaping a fire, covered in smoke, but unharmed, until I reached the car. It was there, in the driver's seat, that the armor fell. I cried, loudly, as if doing so could tear the pain from my chest. In the rearview mirror, I saw my own reflection. Red eyes, pale face, and a silent rage growing like a flame. That night, back home, I put on my mother's apron. Olivia jumped into my arms as if the world was normal. "Are you going to work again today, Mommy?" "No, sweetheart, not today," she smiled. "Yay, then you can play with me?" Those words were little needles in my heart. How many times had I said, "Later, darling," thinking my absence was temporary? That success justified the sacrifice? As I stirred the spoon in the pot, I felt something break inside. But at the same time, something else was born. A certainty. An ancient instinct. I wouldn't be forgotten. I wouldn't be the woman who walked out the back door of her own creation. 3 days later came the final blow. I was sitting on the couch with Olivia asleep beside me when my phone vibrated. It was a video notification, company conference. The title was clear: The Innovation of the Future. Marcus Holt presents the new market revolution. I clicked. The video opened with Marcus on stage, surrounded by lights and applause. Behind him, the slides I had created, the words I had written, the architecture of an idea that came from my mind, now dressed with his signature. This initiative, Marcus said, represents the cutting edge of data intelligence applied to consumer behavior. We developed this technology to put the customer at the center of strategic decision-making. We developed, he said. We developed. Each word was a slap. And in the end, the audience applauded. Applause for the man who erased me. Applause for the face that replaced the creator. I closed the video. And something inside me, that until then had only been wounded, exploded. My body trembled, but it wasn't fear anymore. It was fury. My story wouldn't end like this. Not with a meek goodbye, not with an empty thank you. I would react. I would show who I was. I would make sure the name Justine Clark was remembered. And this time, no one would steal that from me. Watching that video was like being stabbed with a smile stamped on the blade. There was Marcus on a brightly lit stage, dressed in a suit, posing as a genius, applauded, revered. The words coming out of his mouth had a bitter taste too strong to swallow. Vision, innovation, leadership. The future is here. Clichés, rehearsed, perfectly scripted, but every comma he pronounced was a piece of my work, my time, my soul. The images on the screen, the interactive graphics, the usability concepts, even the name of the prototype, were mine. Every detail came from my late nights, the cold coffees, the sacrifices with my daughter. All he was doing was staging the perfect farce. The audience clapped. The entire auditorium stood up at the end as if Marcus had just revealed the cure for cancer. I paused the video with such force that I almost cracked the laptop screen. A buzzing started to fill my head, and my whole body became hot. My stomach twisted as if I had swallowed hot iron. I ran up the stairs and locked myself in my room. The walls, once calm and familiar, now seemed to close in around me. I buried my face in the pillow and screamed. I screamed until my throat scraped, until my voice failed me. The pain was unbearable. It wasn't just anger, it was mourning. There was a light knock on the door. 3 small, hesitant taps. "Mommy?" Olivia's voice was soft, shy. "Are you sad?" I swallowed hard. I quickly wiped my face with the sleeve of my shirt and walked to the door, not opening it yet. "A little, sweetheart," I said, my voice cracking. "I drew something for you." I opened the door. There she was, with her big brown eyes, too large for her little face, holding a scribbled sheet of paper with colored markers. On the paper, a smiling sun, a red heart, and 2 little stick figures holding hands, one with brown hair and the other with a pink bow. "This is you, and this is me. We're beating the villains." I knelt down and hugged my daughter tightly. I stayed there, holding her as if the whole world wanted to crumble, and only that hug could keep the walls standing. "You don't have to be sad, Mommy," she whispered. "You're still smarter than all of them." I smiled. A small, crooked, wounded smile, but real. I wanted to believe that. I wanted to with all my strength. But everything inside me screamed injustice. After Olivia fell asleep that night with the drawing on the wall next to her bed, I went downstairs and sat on the couch in silence. Hours passed. The sky slowly darkened. The world outside went on as if nothing had happened. And then, like a lightning bolt cutting through the darkness, a memory struck me. Melissa Duarte. One of the sharpest minds I'd ever worked with. We had been team partners for 3 years. She was bold, restless, with a sharp smile and a natural talent for challenging the impossible. When she left the company to start her own startup, many laughed at her. But not me. I knew she was just one step ahead. I remembered her words from a lunch, months before. "Justine, if you ever want to change the game, call me. Seriously, The world needs people like you out of these invisible cages. And now, for the first time, I didn't just want to survive. I wanted to change the game. I grabbed my phone. My fingers trembled, but not from fear. It was electricity. It was power flowing back through my veins. I tapped her name in the contact list. It rang once, twice. On the third, she picked up. Hello? Melissa? Justine? Wow, what a nice surprise. It's so good to hear your voice. Is everything okay? I took a deep breath. I looked out the window. The city lit up like a chessboard. No, but it will be. I need you. She was silent for a second, but I could imagine her face lighting up on the other side. Tell me. I have an idea, better than anything they've stolen from me. A laugh escaped her, short, eager. Now you've got me curious. Want to come over tomorrow? We can talk? See what we can do. Melissa. My voice lowered, but was firm. I don't just want to talk. I want to burn everything. I want to build something so big they'll never be able to erase me again. The answer came without hesitation. Then come, let's change the game. I hung up the phone with my eyes burning, but now it was for another reason. It wasn't sadness. It was the return of the spark. That spark Marcus had tried to crush under the sole of his executive shoe, now burning strong. Deep down, I knew. It was a new era beginning. And this time, no one, absolutely no one, would erase my name. Not Marcus. Not anyone. Melissa's startup was a world completely different from what I was used to. Small, yes, but alive. Vibrant. There was an energy pulsing there that I had never felt in the cold, calculated hallways of the old company. It was like stepping into an idea lab, where every corner breathed possibilities. The walls were covered in colorful post-its, whiteboards scrawled with frantic brainstorming sessions, and charts with bold goals. Young people with sparkles in their eyes and deep dark circles worked between laptops, pizza boxes, and giant headphones. Don't mind the mess, Melissa said as she led me to an improvised room with a crooked whiteboard leaning against a metal tripod. Here, chaos is fuel. Perfect, I smiled, because what I brought is too. We sat down. Melissa called 3 people from the core team. Lara, an AI specialist, Tiago, the fastest developer I've ever seen type, and Nando, the strategist who spoke as if he was always launching an advertising campaign. Each of them entered with a coffee cup and curious expressions. I stood up, my laptop open in front of me. My heart was racing, but not from fear. It was excitement. The idea I brought was bold, yes. Did it carry risks? Many, but it was mine. Entirely mine. Born from the ashes of what they stole from me. But it was something new, more powerful, sharper. I started from the beginning, connecting real problems to solutions that didn't yet exist in the market. I presented the product architecture, the UX differentiation, the adaptive system that shaped the user experience based on real-time behavior. I showed graphs, data, potentials. I saw their eyes light up like sparks from an engine starting to catch fire. In the end, I concluded, wiping part of the already scribbled whiteboard with my hand, it's not just about innovation. It's about giving the control back to the user, putting the human experience at the center. That's the difference. That's the revolution. Silence. One of those heavy silences where each second feels like an eternity. Melissa looked at me for a long moment. Then she firmly closed her laptop, clapped her hands on the table, and said with a wide smile, "Let's do this." The atmosphere shifted immediately. That improvised room turned into a trench. In the following days, meetings started happening in the middle of the night. Ideas came to life in lines of code, and the prototype appeared like magic before our eyes. Olivia would come with me sometimes, drawing in the corner of the room while I tested the interface. The team treated her like a mascot, and she felt important. For the first time, she saw me smile while I worked. 3 months later, we launched. And the world responded. On the first day, the servers almost crashed. In the first month, we closed a contract with an international company. In the second month, we were invited to present the project at a global innovation event. Even the press started to notice us, calling the startup a meteor that no one saw coming. Investors reached out to us. Big names. Inexpensive suits, polished smiles, and hungry eyes for trends. Clients wanted exclusivity. Brands wanted to attach their names to ours. And I, for the first time in years, felt whole. But not completely. There was something stuck. A knot in my throat that even success couldn't undo. Yes, I had won. But they were still out there. Marcus still graced the headlines with that same arrogance as if the world owed him admiration. And that ate me up inside. One night, after putting Olivia to bed, I was alone in the living room reviewing a new expansion proposal when my phone buzzed. It was a message notification. Sender, Daniela, an old team colleague from the former company. Justine. I found things. About him. You'll want to see this. I stared at the screen for a few seconds. My heart raced. My mouth went dry. Daniela was never one for drama. She was meticulous, naturally suspicious. If she said there was something, there was. I sent a message back. Call me now. Seconds later, the phone rang. Hey, she said in a near-paranoid whisper. I can't talk much, but I found files, emails, contracts, things hidden in the audits. Daniela, what are you talking about? Money laundering, data concealment, and proof that the idea presented as his was actually yours. Your name was on the original prototype. I backed everything up. The silence that followed was different from any I had ever experienced. It was like the pause before a lightning bolt splits the sky. Are you sure? My voice came out low, almost trembling. I am. But Justine, if you mess with this, you need to be ready, because he doesn't play fair. I stood up from the couch. I walked to the window. The city outside seemed smaller, submissive, like it was waiting for something to happen. I've played fair my whole life, Danny. Look where that's gotten me. She took a deep breath. Then get ready, because the next move is yours. I hung up. I stood there, staring at my reflection in the glass. I saw a different woman, stronger, colder. Revenge was about to stop being just a desire. We met at a cafe hidden on a quiet street in a neighborhood that seemed forgotten by time. The kind of place where conversations are whispered and the walls seem to promise silence. Daniela was already there, sitting at a corner table wearing sunglasses and a hoodie. An almost comical scene, if it weren't for the weight we both carried. When I approached, she lifted her eyes. There was tension on her face, but also a sort of relief upon seeing me. She opened her laptop without saying a word, and for a few seconds the only sound was the hiss of the espresso machine behind the counter and the click of the touchpad being dragged. It's all here, she finally said, turning the screen toward me. And it's not small, Justine. Brace yourself. The first file was an email. Subject: Reallocate R&D funds to the Parallel Fund. Signed by Marcus. It was clear the intention to hide company expenses and manipulate financial reports to appear more stable in the eyes of investors. My stomach turned. Daniela kept navigating. This is from 2 months ago. He used a fake project as justification for the fund transfer. And look at this. She opened a spreadsheet. Columns and columns of altered values, fields filled with swapped dates, and a comment left by someone named JR. Change before sending to auditing. But nothing prepared me for what came next. Justine, look at this. The icon of a small PowerPoint draft loaded on the screen. I knew what it was before even seeing it. It was my original presentation, my slides, my texts, my notes on the margins, and in the bottom right corner there it was, Justine Clark, March 14th. 4 months before Marcus had that brilliant idea that made the cover of Forbes. My hands started to shake. My heart was pounding so loudly it drowned out the noise of the cafe, the sound of cars outside, even Daniela's voice, which now seemed distant. She touched my arm. Are you okay? I shook my head, trying to process the avalanche of emotions, anger, disbelief, a knot of relief and pain all at once. This is proof, isn't it? It's more than proof. This is the end of the line for him, Justine, if you want it. I swallowed hard. He built an empire, on my back, On a lie. While I stayed awake at night wondering if Olivia would grow up proud of me or ashamed, Daniela closed the laptop gently. You're not alone, and you can end this. That night I went home in silence. Olivia was sleeping on the couch, her drawings scattered across the coffee table. One of them caught my eye. It was a woman in a cape, holding a cardboard sword and a briefcase. Below, written in crooked letters, "Mommy is a hero." I sat next to her and cried in silence. But this time it wasn't desperation. It was resolve. I picked up the phone and dialed the number I had been keeping since the day I was fired. Hello? Dr. Vera? This is Justine Clark. I need to talk to you. It's urgent. I have evidence of financial fraud and intellectual property theft. I knew you'd call me eventually. Meet me tomorrow at my office at 9. I hung up. I took a deep breath. The next morning, I put on my best outfit. Not out of vanity, but out of respect. For myself. For the woman who had been through everything and was still standing. I arrived at Dr. Vera's office. A woman with a calm voice and a knife-sharp gaze. I showed her the documents. She didn't say a word for almost 15 minutes. She just analyzed them with surgical precision. Justine, she finally said. This isn't just a corporate scandal, this is a crime, a serious one. And you have enough legal grounds to sue them. All of them. And you know what's even better? What? They won't see this coming. But I wanted more. I wanted the world to see. To know what they had done. That every woman who had ever been silenced in a boardroom, who had her idea ignored only to hear it echoed in a man's voice minutes later, should know that it was possible to fight back. And that's why I called someone else. Sophia Costa, Canal 47 Newsroom. My name is Justine Clark. I have a story, and evidence, of theft, of fraud, and of a woman who decided not to stay silent. The reporter went quiet for a few seconds. Can you prove it? Every word. Then get ready. We're going to tell this the right way, and we're going to make some noise. At that moment, everything started to spin. Lawyers, journalists, technology experts. My name started circulating again, but now with a different narrative. The real one. The one that had always been hidden behind Marcus's facade of success. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, at the headquarters of the company where I spent years, Marcus was smiling for the cameras, probably thinking he was in control. Little did he know. What came next, no one was prepared to watch. When the story aired, it felt like the city stopped. It was as if all the clock hands froze for a second, just long enough for the world to absorb the impact. The headline exploded like a bomb on every news portal. CEO of tech giant accused of fraud and intellectual property theft. Justine Clark exposes million-dollar corruption and manipulation scheme. The woman behind the idea, the true mind behind the next-gen project revealed. I read those words sitting on the couch, with Olivia sleeping in my lap, her little hand clutching the hem of my sweatshirt. For a moment, justice seemed to have a scent, the soft aroma of cereal with milk and children's shampoo. For a moment, I wasn't just the woman who had been fired, the mother holding back tears, the silenced professional. I was Justine Clark. And the world finally knew that. The effects were immediate. In less than 20 minutes, my phone wouldn't stop vibrating. Calls from radio stations, TV interviews, journalists wanting exclusives, invitations to podcasts with millions of listeners. One of the first messages I received was from a woman I didn't know. You don't know me, but I'm an engineer. This has happened to me before. Thank you for not staying silent. You've given a voice to all of us. Another one said, too brave. You've won for all the ones who lost before. And there were also those who tried to make me doubt. You'll regret this. Crazy. You're going to destroy your career. But none of these messages touched me like Olivia's eyes when she woke up that morning, saw my face on TV, and asked, Mommy, are you really a hero now? I just smiled, with tears in my eyes. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Marcus Holt was gathering his crisis team. First, he ignored it. Then, he laughed. He said it was a misunderstanding, a bitter ex-employee. He tried to paint me as unstable, vengeful, unbalanced. But the problem for Marcus was that the time for words had passed. Now, the documents were speaking. The files with my name, the spreadsheets with frauds, the audios, the messages, the accounting manipulation, the diverted funds, the internet became a courtroom, and the jurors had no patience for cynicism. On the second day, the company's board issued a statement. The executive board is committed to transparency and is cooperating with the authorities. On the fourth day, investors started jumping ship. Stocks plummeted, sponsors withdrew support. An international brand published, "We have zero tolerance for corporate dishonesty. We are ending our partnership." On Friday night, a notification popped up on my phone. Live broadcast, Marcus Holt's statement. I clicked. He appeared on the stage where he had stood so many times before, always with that rehearsed, arrogant smile. But now, he was pale. His suit was disheveled, his eyes hollow. "Good evening," he began, his voice trembling. "In recent days, serious accusations have been made against me and the management of this company. After reviewing the documents and reflecting deeply, I recognize my mistakes. I want to publicly apologize to Mrs. Justine Clark. She was indeed the original mind behind the Next Gen project. And to the other employees who may have been affected by my leadership decisions, I failed you." The silence that followed was louder than any applause. Because there were no applause, there was indignation. The next day, Marcus was formally indicted. Cameras were waiting outside the company's headquarters. He walked out with his face covered in shame and his hands handcuffed. Like so many men who believed they could steal ideas, erase names, and walk away unscathed. The images spread worldwide, updated headlines. Marcus Holt leaves company handcuffed. Justice begins to be served. Justine Clark is celebrated as a symbol of resistance and courage. But me? I wasn't at the company's door, nor was I watching it all on TV. At that exact moment, I was climbing the stairs of my new building. I didn't want to take the elevator. I wanted to feel each step under my feet, each beat of my heart as a reminder. I made it here on my own, without any pushes, without shortcuts. Melissa was waiting for me at the top, on the rooftop of the new headquarters of the startup. We were growing too fast and were finally moving to a space worthy of the revolution we were leading. She saw me coming and smiled. "Justine, did you see? He really got arrested." "I saw, but that's not what brought me here." "Then what did?" I stopped for a moment. I looked at the view from up here, the smaller buildings below, the sky wider than ever. I came because there's still more work to be done. Many other Justines out there need to be heard. And now, no one will silence me again. Melissa nodded, her eyes teary. "Ready to lead a real empire?" I smiled. "Only if it's built with justice." Today, the sign at the entrance of the building shines in golden letters, reflecting the sunlight as if the universe conspired for it to be seen. Clark & Co's. 3 words, 1 story, 1 legacy. Our building may not be the tallest in the city, but it is the most alive. Inside it, something pulses that goes beyond technology. It pulses purpose. Our startup, the one that was born in a makeshift room with a crooked whiteboard and the smell of reheated coffee, became a global reference in ethical innovation. Yes, we've won awards. Yes, we've made headlines. Yes, companies study us, investors chase us. But honestly, nothing, absolutely nothing, is more valuable than that one specific night. It was Friday, the kind of night when everything in you screams for silence and rest. But not in my house. Olivia was running down the hallway, her bunny slippers almost flying off her feet, while I reviewed a contract with one eye. She stopped at the door of the room, panting, her hair tangled, and her eyes shining. "Mommy, do you boss everyone around now?" The question took me by surprise. I slowly closed the laptop, looked at her, so small and yet immense in her curiosity. I sat on the couch and patted the seat beside me. She ran and nestled into me. Her heart was beating fast. Or was it mine? In everything that is mine, sweetheart. And no one, absolutely no one, can take that away from me. She smiled. that smile that lights up even the darkest parts of me. She rested her head on my shoulder, as if that moment was the safest place in the world. "So, you're like the boss of the universe?" I laughed. "Maybe just of mine. And if you want, I can teach you how to command yours too." The following week, I received an email titled, "Official Invitation, Women Who Move the World Conference." My heart skipped a beat. The event was massive, a stage that had hosted names like Angela Davis, Chimamanda Adichie, and Malala. Women who don't just move the world, they rebuild it, one speech at a time. The theme of my panel? Don't ask for permission to exist. It took me 3 days to write the first paragraphs, and another week to rewrite everything, as if every sentence demanded not only my experience but also that of all the women who had been silenced, forgotten, or stolen from. On the night of the conference, I found myself alone in front of the dressing room mirror. A large mirror surrounded by round bulbs that blinked as if saying, "You've made it this far." For the first time in a long while, I stared at my reflection without hurry. I no longer saw the woman who was kicked out of a room with a view of the city and hollow words. I didn't see the professional who had to swallow her tears in the car, nor the desperate mother, searching for strength not to sink. There stood a woman who fell, yes, who was thrown to the ground, who had her idea ripped away, her voice muffled, her existence questioned, but who got up with a fire in her eyes and never lowered her head again. I gave my speech with my soul laid bare. I spoke about power, pain, and identity. About the price of speaking up in rooms that were made for women to listen, not to lead. I learned that silence protects us sometimes, but it also chains us. I learned that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to go anyway. And above all, I learned that no one, absolutely no one, has the right to tell you who you are or what you can build. The auditorium fell silent. Not the silence of boredom, but the silence of those processing an internal revolution. And when the applause came, it was like a wave. I saw women of all ages standing, some crying, others smiling as if they had finally found themselves there, in my words. After the speech, a woman approached. She had gray hair, a strong posture, and a gaze that seemed to cut through decades of struggle. "Justine, you didn't just speak for yourself. You spoke for all of us who left ideas on the table and carried the blame in our arms. Thank you for shouting where we could only whisper." I held her hand and replied with everything I had inside me. "We will never whisper again." That night, I received a new proposal. An international fund wanted to invest in Clark & Coir to create an educational arm. Courses, mentorships, acceleration spaces for women entrepreneurs around the world. But it wasn't just money. It was an invitation to transform my pain into policy, my past into a bridge. And when I signed that contract, weeks later, I knew my journey didn't end there. On the contrary, it was just beginning. Because in the end, this story was never just about revenge. It was about visibility, about courage, about all the times we were pushed into the shadows and still lit our own lights. It was about saying no when they expected a yes, about raising our voices when they expected silence, about existing with strength where before we were asked for permission to simply be. Today, when I look ahead, I no longer see Marcus Holt's face. I see my daughter. I see my team. I see the world that still needs to change. And I see a road we still have to walk together. Because now the name on the facade is Clark & Co. But the name engraved in the hearts of those who hear this story is freedom. What would you do in my place? What would you do if you had dedicated years of your life to a company, creating something that could change everything, only to be discarded as if you were disposable? And more importantly, if the chance to fight for your truth appeared before you, would you risk facing those who tried to erase your name? I didn't know the answer right away. I also saw myself in the mirror and asked, am I capable of fighting against the man who stole my idea and my dignity? And I'll tell you, the answer deep down wasn't in the words. It was in the look of my daughter, in the smile of my team, and in the strength that, I discovered, was inside me. So I ask you, would you have the courage to go all the way like I did? Or would you settle for being silenced? If you, like me, believe that our story cannot be erased, that our voice has power, give this video a like and share it with all the women who need to hear this. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe here because we have many more stories of courage, overcoming, and achievement to tell. If you liked what you heard today, join us on this journey. Remember, don't ask for permission to exist. See you in the next story.